see people that are getting involved in the community, because in the end, that's what it takes. People like you getting informed, making your decisions, and then with those decisions that you make, you go vote, and that's how your voice is heard. So I want to commend each and every one of you guys for that. If you don't know, my name is Placidio Rivera, and I am a candidate for City Council at large for our city of Killeen here. So today's meeting, is hosted by myself, and of course, this is, go ahead, introduce yourself, Steve.
No, Steve Ayers, City Councilman, District 4.
Okay, and then for subject matter experts, I've invited our, introduce yourself.
My name is Mark Clifford. I'm the president of the Killeen Professional Firefighter Association. Been a firefighter in Killeen for going on 12 years now.
My name is Bobby Castillo. I'm the president of the Killeen Police Employee Association. I've been an officer with the department for 12 and a half years.
And so at the end, if you guys have any questions, they're gonna be available to answer any questions from things that you might hear and see on the slide presentation. And we're here to, get you guys educated as best that we can. And if we don't have an answer, we'll get you an answer. That's what I can commit to do for you there, okay? So on today's agenda, we'll talk public safety, and that refers, of course, obviously to police, fire, and EMS, and then ethics and budget. Now, when we get into these things, the budget's a very fastidious document, which I'm sure all of you guys are aware of that. And just, this is just a small portion of it, and when you get into it, it can get very deep. So we're not gonna get into that deep of it, we're gonna talk about different things. And then I would encourage you guys to get online, look up the budget, and go through it line by line, and then see where our money is being spent. Because we gotta remember, our tax dollars are your money. It's not the cities, it's not the council members. They are stewards of your money to do the right things with it. And as citizens, we wanna make sure that they do that. So first, we're gonna talk about the Killeen Police Department. And I end up, you going, a little too fast, love. There you go, okay? And this is my lovely wife, Tony Rivera. My Vanna White. Okay? All right, so now let me make a point very clear. I am not here to beat up on the police department. I'm here to inform you about some of their challenges, okay, that they are experiencing due to shortfalls in the budget. I am not here to beat them up. They need our support as citizens in every way possible, okay? So let me make that very clear to you folks out from the outset, okay? So just as a question, how many police officers do you think are on the street right now? At any given time during Killeen? Any guesses?
20.
20, 12, 13. Okay, next slide. And I have this as wrong. It should be 12 to 14 on average. Is this correct?
Yeah, the minimums are 12, but we roughly will have about 12 to 14.
Okay. What would you feel would be an adequate number if you had the proper staffing and budgeting?
Well, in comparison, I like to use the city of Waco as a comparison because it's the next largest city behind Killeen in Central Texas. So we can relate when it comes to economy, demographics, and stuff like that. Because as everybody knows, Killeen is the largest, most populous city between Austin and Dallas, okay? When I was looking at the population last year, we had roughly 8,000 more people than Waco, and their minimums are 15. Our minimums are currently 12. When I speak to officers in the 90s who have worked here, the minimums back then were 9 officers on the roads, and that's when the population is roughly 86,000 people. So as you can see, we don't have an adequate staffing. I mean, do I personally have a number? Yes, I think a safe number would roughly be right around 19 to 20 officers as a minimum to provide efficient services, that is. Efficient services.
And being adequate is better than not, but being efficient is obviously better than being adequate. I think we all would agree on that. All right, next slide. So when you break that down, and of course the math is going to be a little different here because with those numbers, that breaks down 1 officer for every 12,500. Okay, when you break that number down like that. Next slide. Now, we want to talk, because of the budget issues, one way of getting rid of something is just to cut it, period. So, they cut, I say they, the council, cut 19 positions, okay? And then there are still 19 positions, and I've just been informed that number is actually 21.
21's the last
Okay.
number I counted, there may be a little higher, but as of last week. 21.
And then we've had 3 officers resign. And now we're not talking rookies or 2-year veterans. We're talking men that have been here for 12 and 13 years. These are veterans that we need to make sure we keep on our police force because they have the experience in order to help the other ones, the graduates come up through the ranks and to ensure that they get the training that they need and make sure they're following the protocol to become that officer that we want. So when you add all that up together, we're having a shortfall of over 40, 43, 44, give or take, okay? And that is directly affected by the budget and the cuts that the police department is receiving. So I ask you, how does that make you feel? You feel safe? 5 officers were shot at a couple weeks ago now, you're correct?
Yeah, according to the media, as you can see, obviously I can't divulge, information specific to the case, but as the media revealed on the affidavit, the gentleman was, hiding between 2 cars, and as you could tell, when the officers arrived on scene, they were shot at by the individual officer during fire.
And obviously, we don't want that in our city anywhere. We want all of our citizens, no matter where you live, to feel safe in the city that we live in. Okay, we have 6 people in the academy now. We could probably use 60. But the problem is, and not that it's a problem, the situation is, we don't know if they're going to graduate first and foremost, but let's assume they all do. So by the time they come out, instead of having a surplus of gaining, now 3 of those already are compensating for the shortfall of the 3 officers that have resigned. I fear that there might be others possibly resigning, and that doesn't include an officer might be fired. That possibility is out there as well. And so then we're right back at that 0+ mark, potentially. And so that's not very good for us. We want to ensure that when we hire the people, that they go through the academy and then go to the plus side of the column to knock down that 19 positions or 40-some positions that are available. Next slide. So the city council, the mayor, and they seem to find money. And I don't want to be beating them up too much either, okay? But they seem to find money for whatever they want to find money for. When I hear, oh, we're broke, we're broke, we're broke, let's take from the 2 largest departments. Just because they're the 2 largest departments and they make up the bulk of the budget, that's in any city if you guys look at anywhere. Police and fire are the largest 2 departments in any city, no matter where you go. So they cannot always be trimming. What happens to somebody if you trim all your fat away? Let's say you're losing weight. You lose all your weight, then you start losing more. What happens? You get into your muscle and tissue. Is that good for your body? No, it's not. You start dying. We don't want that to happen to us as a city. So, but yet we find room, in my opinion, this was a waste of money, the hike and bike. All the people that I've spoken to, which has probably been a couple hundred at least, I'll be generous. 10% of them said they might go. Because it makes for quality of life. Well, that's not the quality of life that I like to see in our city. At least not now. Clean is becoming an employment agency for other cities at our expense. The mayor and the council don't have money for public safety, but yet they can pass other items that make them feel good about themselves. And again, I know it sounds harsh to hear this, but when the city council, their first obligation, in my opinion, and I'm sure yours, is that their duty is to make you feel safe in your city. That should be their #1 duty. And that falls under public safety. So you should feel safe, not only from being protected in terms of crime, but also feel safe that when you have to call the police, that they get there within that 4 minutes. That 4 minutes is for a reason. It's just not a number they pulled out of the air. That number represents a time frame by which they can come back or get to your home in that time frame to save your life. Most accident or most health issues can be revived up to that point, typically, the 4 minutes.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, so most cities show up to that 4-minute mark, your chance of survival is a lot higher. After that 4-minute mark, you drop from 70% down to 50%, and it just drops exponentially after that.
And that's a pretty significant drop, 70 to 50, and then after the fact. I'm sure none of us would like that. And I know for me, this hits home personally for me because my brother who was in policing for the better part of 40 years. He died of a heart attack last year. Now, it wasn't here, but it was in Florida. They got there in 6 minutes instead of 4. And I don't want to blame anybody. I'm not here to do that to them over there either. But for me, it's personal because I had a family member that died from that type of scenario. And I'm sure that you guys wouldn't want to have any of your family affected by this in any way, shape, or form. Next slide. So training costs to hire from time of processing when they fill out the application all the way through to get done with the academy and get on the streets is roughly $80,000 to $90,000. That's a pretty significant number, okay? So when we do that, we want to keep what we train. From what I've seen and talked to even other municipalities, Killeen has one of the better training programs in terms of the different municipalities. So we're fortunate to have that here. We need to exploit that for the good, not for our detriment as citizens and for our city. Our police are unpaid. The way I figure it's around 20%. Ron Olson claims it's 7%. I think you talked about maybe 15%.
I know that 7% was,
I think that's an average of
was for the
everything.
fire department, right? Or,
I think it was an average for the entire city.
Right, that's what my average, that's what I'm thinking it was. That kind of is misleading to some degree, okay? And I'm gonna be very careful with my words, because I never want to down talk anybody, okay? I'm not a guy that likes to point fingers. I like to help people get information and then decipher it. And so if that number is wrong, then I certainly want to be educated in the right way that I should be myself. But let's just say it's at that 15%. That's a big difference. They go to a job fair and they see 6 municipalities, Killeen and whomever else. They go there and, oh, everything looks good, clean's at the top of the list until we get to the compensation line. Then like, oh my goodness, why do I want to work here when I can go here and make $10,000, $15,000 more? And the crime rate, my calls are significantly less. And this puts stress on these guys. It's not about just the calls. These guys have to live in an environment of stress for whatever hours they're working. And then they have to dump that before they go home. And then they got to be mom or dad when they get home. That's challenging. And we want to make sure they have the best environment they can have to work in as well. Insurance premium, they're on an 80-20. That's not a very good one, I don't think. Something that maybe we should try and look into. We're one of the most dangerous cities in the Texas. That's not my words, that's from research that I've done. And I don't want to be known for that. You know, when I first got here 8 years ago, my wife's in the military, if I didn't mention that. She's an officer. And when we first got here 8 years ago, or 7.5 years ago, people said, where are you going to? We said, we're going to Killeen. And I got the rolling of the eyes, and I'm like, what are you doing that for? And then they started telling me all these things. Well, as a new person coming to town, that's not very encouraging to go somewhere to hear you're going into, and I won't use the words they say, but, you know, and it wasn't near that bad since being here. I think we have a good city, and there's means by which we can become even a better city, and I'm anxious to help to be a part of that solution. So the call rates are high. Vehicles are dangerous to officers and the public. Their mileages are high, and the years and the cars are old. You know, I was talking with the chief, and he wants to get into a situation where they've got cars that have been brought in for the new fleet. They use them for that time to get like 80,000 miles on them. Then they pass them on to the next department for staff cars and detective and things of that nature. And then they sell them, and then there's recycled. You know, something to that effect. Well, that's not what's happening now. We're running around with cars. These guys, some of them got 200,000 plus miles on it. That's city miles. You put that on highway miles, it's probably double that, or you know, something along those lines. The cars overheat in the summertime. They're still using antiquated equipment by comparison to other police cities. Tape, VHS, things of this nature. We're way past that, guys. We're in the 21st century. And our police needs to be involved with it, or brought up to that standard, and that goes back again to the budget. Certain sacrifices have to be made, and I don't know that we can always put on the chopping block our police and our fire department. And then, of course, training. You know, making a good officer is obviously starts with a good person, and then you build on that. But also, a continuum with that is being able to train them on a regular basis. The chief was telling me that he's got sergeants and lieutenants that he needs to make sure they're trained right, so they in turn can train the officers that are underneath them. So that way everybody's doing the jobs that they need to have done. But if you don't have the proper training schedules, or money, it's a bad situation. You were telling me that there's a difference from last year to now?
2016, the police department was budgeted, and it's online, right over $160,000 for training. As you know, especially in today's day and generation, policing's at a very, very critical level, when it comes to scrutiny and ensuring they do the right thing. So training obviously is something that helps ensure that officers, do the proper things, and things like that. And so we went from 160,000 in 2016 down to only $76,000 in 2018 for training. That's inadequate for a department of our size easily.
That's a huge cut. That's not even a small cut. That's huge. So, solutions. Obviously increase the budget, increase salary and benefits, repair and replace equipment. But there's also us, the citizens. We need to get involved. We need to educate ourselves. We need to be more informed. And once we are those things, we need to make our voices heard to your city council representatives, to the mayor, to the city manager. That's how we make a difference. We can't always, it's so easy to get out with our friends on Saturday morning at McDonald's while we're having coffee and breakfast, or whatever the case may be, to say, oh, the police this or this, that, or the other. But we need to take it a step further by getting involved. That's how we truly make a difference in our city. Things like this, the Citizens Police Academy. People need to take the time, they want to help their communities and themselves, get involved with a program like this. It makes a difference, not only for you, but also for our police. So with solutions come results, hopefully. And better retention of officers. That means we keep more of our officers. More officers being hired, because now we're competitive. We don't need to be the highest paid. I've talked to these guys, they're not asking to be the highest paid. They're just asking to be competitively paid. And I don't see a problem with that. Better quality of officer, when you get all these two. City saves money because $80,000, $90,000 on the front end. You add that up by all these officers that are leaving,